Prologue. The Heavens Speak. Long before the story reached the ears of the common man, it was written in the tapestry of the night sky. In the ancient East, where the deserts kissed the horizon and the stars were the only compass for both travelers and kings, the heavens were not merely a ceiling, but a grand canvas of prophecy. High in the ziggurats of Babylon, the air was thin and cool. Here stood Melchior, an elder scholar of the stars. His beard was as white as the moon, his eyes crinkled from decades of squinting into the cosmic abyss. He was a magus, a priest of the Zoroastrian faith, and a master of astronomy. For centuries, his people had studied the alignments of the planets, recording the birth and death of empires based on the waltz of celestial bodies. But tonight was different. In the western sky, a new light had ignited. It was not a shooting star that burned bright and faded into the dark, nor was it a familiar planet wandering its usual path. It was a star of unprecedented brilliance, holding a steady, piercing silver-blue luminescence. It pulsed with a quiet, undeniable authority. Melchior unrolled ancient parchments, texts from the Hebrew prophet Daniel, who had lived among them centuries ago. The prophecies spoke of a great king, a Messiah, who would rise from the lineage of David in the land of Judea. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star will come out of Jacob, a scepter will rise out of Israel. The heavens had spoken. The King of Kings had been born. Chapter 1. The Gathering of the Wise. Melchior knew he could not make this journey alone. The revelation was too immense. Word of the anomaly in the skies spread across the scholarly networks of the East, carried by swift riders and merchant caravans. Within weeks, 3 men of profound wisdom converged at the edge of the great Persian desert. Melchior, the eldest, hailing from Persia. He brought with him the wisdom of ages and the wealth of an ancient empire. Caspar, a younger scholar from the lush regions of India. He was a man of deep philosophical thought, seeking the ultimate truth behind human suffering and existence. Balthazar, a noble astronomer from the rich lands of Arabia and Ethiopia. He was a man of deep spiritual intuition, bringing a quiet strength and a keen understanding of the divine mysteries. They met beneath a canopy of woven silk, the desert wind howling outside. "You have seen it," Melchior said, his voice trembling with a mixture of awe and age. "It calls to us," Balthazar replied, his dark eyes reflecting the flickering campfire. "It does not wander. It waits. It points toward Judea." Caspar nodded slowly. "A journey of many months. Across treacherous sands, through the territories of bandits, and into the domain of the Romans. It is madness to go." He paused, looking up through the tent opening at the night sky. "And yet, it is greater madness to stay." They agreed to follow the light. They would not go empty-handed. To greet a newborn king, one must bring gifts befitting royalty, divinity, and destiny. Melchior chose gold, the metal of kings, a symbol of earthly kingship and eternal value. Caspar chose frankincense, a rare, fragrant resin used in temple worship, symbolizing deity, prayer, and the role of a high priest. Balthazar, with a somber heart, chose myrrh, a bitter perfume used for anointing the dead. It was a prophetic gift, acknowledging that this king was born to suffer and die for the world. Chapter 2. The Treacherous Sands. The journey was not a quiet stroll beneath a magical sky. It was a grueling test of endurance and faith. Their caravan, consisting of camels, guards, and servants, moved mostly by night to escape the blistering heat of the day and to keep their eyes locked on their celestial guide. The desert was a harsh mistress. For weeks, they saw nothing but rolling dunes resembling a frozen, golden ocean. Sandstorms whipped across the landscape, blinding the camels and threatening to bury the caravan alive. During these terrifying storms, the stars were blotted out, and the Magi were left in suffocating darkness. In the heart of the Syrian desert, doubts began to creep into their minds. "Have we misread the signs?" murmured Caspar one evening, his water skin nearly empty. "Perhaps it is merely a comet, a harbinger of doom," rather than a king. Faith is not the absence of darkness, my friend, Balthazar answered gently, sharing his own meager water ration. Faith is the memory of the light when the darkness falls. The star has not vanished. It is only hidden by the dust of the earth. As if in response to Balthazar's words, the wind died down the following midnight. The dust settled, and there, burning brighter than ever, was the star in the east. It seemed to hang lower now, pulling them forward with an invisible tether. Their spirits renewed, the caravan pressed on. Chapter 3. The Court of the Fox. Months later, the caravan finally crossed into the rugged, mountainous terrain of Judea. They expected to find a country in jubilation. Surely, if a great king had been born, the entire nation would be celebrating. Instead, they found the city of Jerusalem tense and bustling, occupied by Roman soldiers and governed by a paranoid tyrant, King Herod the Great. When the Magi rode through the gates of Jerusalem, their exotic garments and majestic camels drew crowds. They asked openly, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." The question sent shockwaves through the city. Word quickly reached the royal palace. King Herod, an aging ruler fiercely protective of his throne, was terrified. A new king meant a rival. He summoned the chief priests and teachers of the law, demanding to know where this Messiah was supposed to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," the priests replied, trembling. "For this is what the prophet has written." Herod, cunning as a fox, decided to use the foreign scholars. He invited Melchior, Caspar, and Balthazar to a secret meeting in his opulent, marble-floored chambers. "My distinguished guests," Herod purred, his smile not reaching his cold, calculating eyes. "I am overjoyed by your news. Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." The Magi bowed respectfully, but Balthazar's intuitive spirit sensed the venom beneath the king's honeyed words. The opulence of Jerusalem felt hollow. The true king was not in this palace of paranoia and blood. Chapter 4. The Road to Bethlehem. Leaving Jerusalem behind, the Magi began the short journey south to Bethlehem, a small, unassuming shepherd town. As they left the city walls, the anxiety that had gripped them in Herod's court vanished. The star, which had seemed to dim in the bright lights of Jerusalem, suddenly flared with immense glory. It moved ahead of them, a beacon of pure joy. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. The road wound through terraced hills of olive groves and grazing flocks. The night was profoundly silent, save for the rhythmic padding of camel hooves and the distant bleating of sheep. It was here, in the quiet, pastoral outskirts of Bethlehem, that the star stopped. It did not hover over a grand palace or a mighty fortress. It hung low over a simple, humble dwelling. Melchior stopped his camel. The three men dismounted. The contrast was staggering. They had traveled from the edges of the known world, carrying fortunes in their saddlebags, expecting a royal court. Instead, they stood before a modest house made of stone and clay. "Is this the place?" Caspar asked, his voice barely a whisper. "The heavens do not lie," Melchior replied. He adjusted his heavy robes, his heart pounding like a young man's. "The King of the universe has chosen the lowest of places. Let us go in." Chapter 5. The Adoration. Inside the dwelling, the air smelled of straw, warm animals, and the faint, sweet scent of milk. The room was illuminated by a single oil lamp, but to the Magi, it felt as bright as the midday sun. There, sitting quietly, was a young woman named Mary. Her face was weary but radiant with a serene, incomprehensible peace. Standing protectively near her was a rugged carpenter, Joseph. And in Mary's arms was a child, Jesus. He was not adorned in silk or jewels. He was dressed in simple linen. Yet, as the three wise men looked upon the child, the years of study, the grueling months in the desert, and the intimidating encounter with Herod all melted away. In the eyes of this infant, they saw the origin of the stars they had studied their entire lives. They saw love incarnate. Overcome with a profound sense of holy awe, the three great scholars, men who bowed to no earthly king, fell to their knees on the dirt floor. They prostrated themselves, pressing their foreheads to the ground in absolute worship. The presentation of the gifts. They opened their magnificent treasures, laying them at the feet of the humble family. Melchior came forward first. He opened a beautifully carved wooden box, revealing heavy, gleaming gold. "For the king," he whispered, "may his reign be eternal, and his kingdom be one of justice and peace." Mary smiled, nodding in quiet thanks. Caspar approached next. He presented an ornate brass censer, filled with the finest frankincense. "For the priest," he said softly, "may his life be a sweet offering to the divine, bridging the gap between heaven and earth." Finally, Balthazar stepped forward. The room grew quiet as he opened a small, alabaster jar. The sharp, bittersweet aroma of myrrh filled the room. "For the sacrifice," Balthazar said, his voice thick with emotion. He looked deeply at Mary, realizing the pain this mother would one day endure. To heal the brokenness of the world, he will pour himself out. Mary and Joseph accepted the gifts in stunned silence. The wealth laid before them was enough to secure their future, but the reverence of these foreign dignitaries meant far more. It was a confirmation that this child did not belong merely to them, nor just to Israel, but to the entire world. Epilogue: A different path home. The Magi lingered in Bethlehem for a short time, their souls filled to the brim. The agonizing questions they had carried for a lifetime about the meaning of existence had been answered in the silent gaze of a child. That night, as they slept, a shared dream came upon them. An angel of brilliant light appeared, carrying a severe warning: "Do not return to Herod. His heart is set on destruction." Waking before dawn, the Magi knew what they had to do. They quietly packed their caravan. They did not take the road north to Jerusalem. Instead, they skirted the city, taking a hidden, arduous route south and east, disappearing back into the vast deserts from whence they came. They returned to their own countries by another way, but the phrase meant more than just a change in geography. They returned by another way in their souls. They had followed a star to find a king, but they had found God wrapped in human flesh. They were forever changed. The star in the east eventually faded from the night sky, its cosmic purpose fulfilled. But the light it heralded, the light of Christ, the child born in a manger, remained, blazing a trail of hope, redemption, and eternal love across the tapestry of human history.